Check, check. What's up, everybody? John TheMorgile here for a live stream Flat Earth Talk hangout with the community. Check, check. Everybody, what's up, everybody? John TheMorgile here. So I know there's definitely Flat Earth Talk hangout with the community. There we go. So I know it's definitely coming through on the live stream side. Sorry about that little delay there, but yeah, wanted to make sure that it's live, and we've got just a few people watching now. So I started a little bit early, give people a chance to pile in. So welcome everybody. I'm just gonna say hello in the chat. Make sure the chat's working. I kept getting a thing where it said unable to connect to chat. So hopefully you guys see me in the chat. I don't see anyone else in the chat as of yet, but I guess there's just 30-second delay. So hello, everybody. Welcome. And I'll just sort of, shoot the breeze a little bit as everyone piles in, because I know sometimes it takes a few minutes for everyone to get in. And of course, this will go up on the archive. So in case you are watching later, then you get to hear me rambling. So anyway, so far 34 people live, so we'll just give it another couple minutes. Hopefully like to get a few more people started, so I don't really want to have to repeat myself too much, but what I really want to do is sort of interact with the community, and I'm not seeming to see any comments yet in the comments area on this one, so I'm not sure what's up with that. Let me refresh that page and just see. There we go. Now I can see comments in the chat. Great. So yeah, this is something that I wanted to do, just to talk to everybody out there and say hello, and let you guys decide the topic of conversation. So this is sort of an impromptu hangout. I did recently release a video that is obviously a bit controversial, so I'm sure that there will be a lot of questions regarding that. And at some point, if it becomes too cumbersome trying to go through the chat, then I will take phone calls. Where am I, Nikki Loves? I am in South Kakalaka, South Carolina, east side of the United States. Don't spam IPS. I would say not. I mean, you guys can do whatever you want, but I don't necessarily condone spamming anybody. I mean, that's just me, though. I mean, to each his own. Sup B Adam. IPS post was old news. Well, the thing is, and I'm not sure exactly the context. What do you mean, OJ McBaggins, about that being old news, the post? Yeah, so there's a nice little penguin with ad hominem attacks. Wow, that is very much of a big surprise. Actually, my rent's fine, and I've got multiple sources of income that have nothing to do with YouTube. I do work for a living, so yeah, not sure why the Masonic penguin trolls, not saying that person is Masonic, but that emblem has a big M in the forehead, and Freemasons tend to, whenever they create a logo or a meme, they tend to, hide things in plain sight like M's. But so, yeah, not surprised that you're going to start attacking my character and using ad hominem attacks. So, yeah, I'm sure that wasn't IPS, I know, but there's lots of people, lots of flat earthers who use the exact same avatar, and I'm not saying that anything negative applies to all of those people at all. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is just my very limited dealings with people who use that Fepe meme or whatever as their avatar are typically they typically don't act like a regular everyday flat earther. And I'm not saying that, again, that's a stereotype, and stereotypes never apply to everybody. But again, I'm not surprised to see that sort of thing. So research guy says penguin equals Masonic black and white duality reference, not rocket surgery. Yeah, indeed. And it's not even so much reading into, yeah, you can say that about a lot of the artwork. And when you start looking into J-trig, though, and I think this is a really big topic that a lot of people don't take seriously. There have been people like John LeBon saying that flat earthers need to prove that there are paid globe earth trolls. But if you read the GCHQ documents about J-trig that were, I believe they were found not through Freedom of Information Request Act, but through WikiLeaks, if I'm not mistaken. But whatever the case, these J-trig documents were released showing that they do exactly that. They pay people to cause fallacious or misguided online discourse. And it's literally a vast psychological operation that spans everything from YouTube to chat rooms to blog posts. And what I found very interesting, researching the J-trig manipulation tactics, was the fact that they indeed target businesses as well as individuals. And so for the longest time, when I came out as a vocal proponent for flat Earth, and I had a fairly my home-based business was doing very well up to that point, and it continued to do well up to that point until I did the Art Bell show, which at that point I was sort of forced to, I intended to remain anonymous up to that point. However, I was forced to release my identity because everyone was saying, oh, this guy doesn't even have a real name. He's an Illuminati shill because he won't give his real name. And frankly, I gave my real name. And one of the biggest reasons that I always had reservations about releasing my full name is because my name ain't exactly John Smith. My name is very unique. There's not too many Jonathan Christopouloses out there in America, at least. It's a fairly common name in Greece, but in terms of America, unless I have any nephews that I'm not aware of named Jonathan Christopoulos, then I'm the only one. Right. I do have a big family, but there's not lots and lots of instances of Christopouloses running around the United States. And so that was my biggest reservation of ever putting my real name on my YouTube channel, just for the sake of anonymity. It's a smart thing to do. And when I did that debate, I did it for the sake of anonymity because, again, flat Earth was not my life focus at that point. However, again, just being honest, I released my identity, and very shortly thereafter, all of my business client relationships were within 2 weeks completely, I guess you could say, sniped. And up to this point, I sort of thought, yes, this is me being paranoid. I understand. But when you read those J-trig documents and they classify somebody or business as not even a national security threat, not even suspected of or guilty of any crimes, but just this very broad spectrum of activists or hacktivists or online activity, where the federal government has basically given themselves carte blanche authority to go in and ruin the reputations of people who are involved in the truth awakening movement. And that's exactly what that spells out. And this isn't news. I mean, that the whole J-trig documents, at least the article that I read and the video that I just did, if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link in the chat. It's just the last video I did. It's called Flat Earth Illuminati PSYOP. You can find it. It's over 3 hours long, but I would just say watch the entire thing before you make any sort of judgment on the on my position on this whole thing. So I just went on a bit of a rant. Let me catch up to the chat a little bit. It's a bit hard. There are quite a bit of chat messages. So that one was Research Guy. Flat Earth Minute says, did you have an opportunity to watch the Mad Mike interview that Jaron mentioned in your comment section? I have yet to do so. Well, that's an interesting question because the day before Globebusters this past week, I talked to Jaron about this very topic in terms of the J-trig Illuminati shill theory, let's just call it. And I didn't get much from Jaron. He did tell me to watch that video, but my point is, regardless of what we are told by Mad Mike, and regardless of how certain people act in certain venues is one thing. Okay, so I can act like something in, as an alter ego on venue A, but then if I go to venue B and act as something completely different, then there's a problem there. That's a little bit confounding, because people usually aren't one way publicly and then another completely different way sort of privately. And so my whole point is, regardless of the finesse that a person may have, regardless of the apparent accomplishments that a person may have, and regardless of how a person talks on certain venues, if that person's intentions are, malignant, then I think that needs to be exposed, especially in the truth movement. And so, in terms of JTrig targeting businesses, well, to me, I still feel like, yes, there's room for me, that I'm being paranoid, that I lost all 4 of my business clients within a week of one another, within a month after doing that Art Bell interview or debate or whatever, and releasing my name within a week of that. So to me, it was just a very unfortunate series of coincidences at the time. Because, like I said, I'd had my business for years. It did sort of fall apart when I was hit by a car, and I had been rebuilding it for over a year, and things were going very well. And, like I said, all of a sudden, within a week, I lost all 4 of my clients. Some of them were long-term, very good clients that there were no issues with. And so, it just makes you wonder, when you look at that JTrig document of the tactics that they use. They will literally target people to discredit them in their business life. They will target people to discredit them personally, to discredit their character, and to ultimately cause the illusion in the mass media that their target is something that they completely are not. That is the goal of one of the methods and goals of JTrig. So when you hear people who claim to be truthers sitting around laughing about JTrig and basically revealing their tactics and agreeing with those tactics and thinking that they're brilliant, I'm sorry, but that isn't a truther. It isn't. Um, it would be like, me sitting around laughing about how clever the Federal Reserve scam is, and bragging about how one of my relatives may work for the Federal Reserve Bank. I mean, if you've been in the truth movement long enough, you know for a fact that the Federal Reserve, the non-federal, non-reserve scam, is the biggest deception in American history, especially, or at least in terms of monetary damage. They've taken all of the value of our currency and made it essentially nothing. They've traded us worthless spells, worthless fiat currency, for a lot of people's souls, but certainly our property. That's why we have, the whole big housing bubble, which is a whole other story. But it's because people have traded their hard work, blood, sweat, tears, effort, and even soul for a worthless fiat currency, a worthless spell that has no constitutional right to represent currency, and it also has nothing backing it other than the faith of the American people and worthless fossil fuels. Okay, so continuing with the comments. I still have my concerns about IPS, though. This seems the crux of the issue. That was from Flat Earth Minute. Yes, I'm very concerned about IPS. I was never heard of them until a few weeks ago, when Bob on the Globebusters mentioned what a great channel he had, and he actually mentioned that twice. And so I was, just on the computer one night, and I noticed that IPS was live. So I figured I'd check it out and see what all the praise was about, because usually when Bob points to Flat Earth channel, he has a pretty good I trust his reference, so I checked it out, and frankly I couldn't even stand to be there more than 20 minutes, because literally the first time my introduction to IPS was, he was essentially bashing some Christian chick in the chat. And I sort of stood up for her a little bit, and the whole thing was just a bizarre conversation that I didn't want to get into, and that was my first experience with IPS. And, you know, other than that, I didn't really watch his stuff. We had him on the Glowbusters. It seemed like we had a pretty good conversation, whatever. And the problem is that what seems to be being planned is flat Earth is going to be taken down in the public eye. Now, we all know this isn't going to affect real true blue flat earthers in the slightest, but what it is going to affect is the 90% of people in the world who know nothing of flat Earth. It's going to be presented to them in such a manner where flat earthers seem ridiculous. Now, I did read one of the comments that Jaron posted on my video, and honestly, and maybe I'm wrong here, but this is the first time I ever remember seeing Jaron comment on one of my videos. Maybe he's commented on lots of them, I don't know, but this was the first time I've ever noticed a comment from Jaron on one of my videos. So I simply replied to him, "Thank you for commenting," because, you know, that's, wow, that's like a, you know, a purple unicorn or something. But anyway, you know, his point is that I didn't research the secondary rocket launch, but what I was basing my dissection of that conversation on was the conversation itself. And the question was asked, and I'll paraphrase, but it was asked in this manner. So you're saying they're going to take a steam rocket from a weather balloon and they are going to try to get to the Kármán line. And IPS essentially says, well, I don't know. That's a good question. And, you know, fine. You know, we can answer questions we don't know, but I'm sorry, if I'm going to bet my entire farm on something, I'd like to have a little bit more information about it first. Like, A, is it even plausible? B, you know, if there's a 4-page PDF about it, that sort of thing should probably go on the GoFundMe page, and you may want to know that sort of thing before even bringing this whole thing to a flat Earth light. I mean, am I making sense to you guys? Because what I'm saying is that would be like me betting all of my money and betting flat Earth on the idea that I can throw. Let's reference Napoleon Dynamite, the movie that everybody's seen, right? Back in 1982, I could throw a football over that mountain there, right? Okay. So if I was going to bet flat Earth or bet the farm on that claim, I'd like to see a little bit more information first. And to me, it's just very suspect that this person would gather followers to claim that we're going to promote this in the media as the be-all, end-all, quote, final nail in the coffin of flat Earth before even knowing the logistics of the thing. It doesn't make any sense. It's it's a clever narrative, but if you actually think about this logically and how logical people operate, I'm sorry, but you wouldn't bet the farm on something where you don't even know the most minute details of how it's going to be accomplished. And so whether they have some other delivery mechanism for the second launch that they're going to be doing from a weather balloon, that's irrelevant to this conversation, because the question was asked by Timmy O to IPS whether or not so he said, so you're telling me this steam rocket is going to be launched from a balloon and they're going to try to get to the Kármán line, and essentially said that's a good question. But my overarching point to this aspect of it is it's irrelevant. The Go Fast rocket launch, which was, I think it's the world record for an amateur rocket launch, got to 72 miles, which is 10 miles further than the Kármán line, which is what their alleged goal is. And so to say that this stunt that is going to be related to flat Earth is in any way relevant is just ridiculous. This is an irrelevant stunt, and I'm sorry, but to marry flat Earth to this stunt, when it fails, and you know, whether that's a catastrophic failure or whether it's some other sort of failure, it's irrelevant, because we already know that we can launch amateur rockets up to well beyond the Kármán line, if you believe the Go Fast rocket footage. And yes, they used a fisheye lens for that, but surely we could do something similar to that without a fisheye lens. But again, none of this stuff is really even relevant because direct measurement, direct observation, simple physics always concludes that the Earth is a stationary plane. And to say that flat Earth truth is somehow reliant upon this cockamamie stunt is what it's going to do, unless we are very careful, is it's going to completely ridicule and damage flat Earth truth in the public eye, which is really the most important thing, really, because it's going to make it that much more difficult to wake people up to flat Earth when the conversation is sparked in such a manner where it is a conversation of automatic default incredulity. So, okay, skipping down through some comments. Explain why I can see the ISS through my telescope, from Zachariah Hanafi. Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? First of all, it doesn't make sense why we can see the ISS with the naked eye at all. They claim that it's about 250 miles up, and they claim that it's about the length of a football field. And if you just go by simple operations of perspective, an object that large would be completely invisible to the naked eye as well as telescope. Unless you're dealing with something where you've got super zoom and super digital zoom, perhaps. But at the end of the day, the ISS is obviously a hoax. It's not something that's actually up there orbiting the hypothetically spherical Earth. So Bourbon Whiskey says, is NASA not a paid ball Earth troll itself? Yeah, that's exactly what NASA is. NASA is paid to trick people into thinking they live stuck to the side of a spinning sphere, and that promotes everything from atheism to nihilism. It really is, whether anyone cares to admit it or not. Most people who believe in the heliocentric infinite space hypothesis, that sort of thing is incompatible with a singular creator where Earth and people are God's very special creation. And so to take that away from us, even if, say, 500 years ago when the first globes were made, then that's taking us away from our relationship with our actual creator. By, instead of having faith in a creator, we have faith in men and faith in worthless spells such as the currency, and faith in men in terms of the Vatican or the Catholic Church, who literally claim to be the vicars of Christ on earth, or the really the effigy, or the the embodiment of Christ on earth, which is, it's just absolute nonsense. The Catholic Church and most, even the Orthodox churches, and now even most so-called Protestant churches, have nothing to do with Christ's teachings or true Christianity. And so it's, it's very difficult thing to talk about. It is a polarizing thing, and don't necessarily want to get into that too much, but NASA is definitely there to sever our sever our relationship with the creator by making us believe that we came from monkeys, and the monkeys came from tadpoles, and the tadpoles came from single-cell organisms, and the single-cell organisms came from inanimate soup. That's what they want us to believe. And when you realize creation is the real deal, we don't live in some random chaotic universe as purported by alliance, then it does make you revisit the topics in the Bible with a little bit more interest. At least it did for me, because I always thought growing up that the Bible was stupid because it disagreed with science. Now, and I'm just being very honest. Also, I think that there is a lot of deception in the King James Version of the Bible necessarily, although I think that Jesus' teachings were fairly well preserved, and I think that's the most important thing of the New Testament Bible is are the teachings of Christ. And that's, whatever you believe or not, that's fine. We all have our disagreements. So anyway, did awesome on that interview. 50 Shades of Grey. I'm not sure which interview. I guess maybe you're talking about the one that I did previously with the Globe Earth Troll crowd. I don't know. Yeah, it was very difficult to even get a word in edgewise, but at least I was able to do a redux of it where I could make my points. And they actually tried to hit that video with a copy strike, and of course that I appealed that and won. So thank goodness. But yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you for that. So no sarcasm. Wait a minute, lost it. John, if anyone doubts your credibility, they need to be taken aside. Well, people can doubt my credibility. I am a vocal proponent for flat Earth, and so most people, when they are told about me, yes, the flat Earth or the Morgile, then they're going to doubt my credibility. So we can't necessarily say that, because if we start pushing people aside, then we're not bringing new people to the truth. So I see what you're saying, and I appreciate that. I really do. But my credibility stands for itself. Just as the flat stationary Earth stands for itself. I mean, we don't have to prove it. It is nice to show people all millions of different proofs. I don't know, maybe not millions, but just thousands of different basic experiments that anyone can do to prove it. And so in that sense, it's all very credible by default. Credibility doesn't need to be earned. Something is either credible or it's not. So, I appreciate that. Although if people are incredulous to flat Earth, we can't blame them, because we all were at that point at some point in the past. So, hello, everybody. I'm just reading through the comments literally. Just seeing what everybody is talking about. I want to respond to you guys. And at some point, I'll open up the phone lines and take some calls here. Seems like we've got a couple people watching, so or a good bit of people watching, so I may go ahead and open up the phones here in just a minute. I want to hear what you guys are saying. Yeah. So Ace McLeod says, oh, and I want to talk to you, Ace McLeod. Did you do an interview with Tim Osmond where he showed his face about over a year ago? Fepe triggered, yeah. Whatever that means. I don't even know what that means. The Philosopher's Stone, legit points being made. Thank you all. Yeah, flat Earth will survive. I really want, and to each his own. I'm not going to say that I'm going to dissuade anybody from supporting whomever they want, and I'm not going to say that if you support this person, then I'm not going to be your friend anymore. Because I'm sorry, I graduated from high school a long time ago. I went to college, so I've been out of the whole middle school, I'm not going to be your best friend anymore thing. Since I was in elementary school, I didn't even like it then. So okay, looking at your comment there, Ace McLeod, I think he did briefly, and someone texted me they lifted it. Martin saw him too. Okay, so okay, I was just wondering because but he didn't do a full interview where he showed his face. It was sort of a brief thing that whatever. Anyway, what does this mean? What does it mean you're triggered? What does a penguin triggered wrench thing mean? I don't understand. Yeah, he used Matt's name. That's another thing, I thought was very interesting when reading up on that JTrig document. If you guys watch the entire video, then you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't watch the entire video, then watch the entire video, because I know that at first it seems like I have very off-the-wall opinions, but the only reason it's laid out like that is because I had actually watched that Hangout 3 times in a row before I decided to start responding to it, because this sort of thing, I'm sorry, when you are wakened up to truth in general, it always leads you back to Freemasonic secret societies who operate in the open and always use the same tactic, which is essentially divide and conquer, or order out of chaos. And it's plainly obvious that's what they're trying to plan with this stunt. And the whole end result of my efforts here are going to be bittersweet, because I know that by voicing this dissent and by calling this out for the complete BS that it is, and even though I haven't seen the logistics yet, I don't have to see the logistics yet. And I'm very surprised that anyone would sign on to this thing and promote it to flat earthers without knowing anything about the logistics. But it actually makes a lot of sense in this context. And so, again, I'm not, you guys out there are more than welcome to support and contribute and share whomever's work that you like. But when you read into the JTrig tactics, one of the things that they do is they use other people's names and that would be publicly and in secret. So let's just say hypothetically, and I'll just use myself as an example. Let's just say hypothetically there are 10 JTrig page shills out there going around in different blog spots that I've never heard of because I don't read blogs much and I don't blog. But let's just say hypothetically there's 10 Globe Earth shills out there pretending to be me using TheMorgile as the name, and spouting a bunch of ad hominem nonsense or fallacious arguments. Now, I'm not saying that's happening, but what I'm saying is that's the sort of thing that we should expect from JTrig. And if they're using other people's name in sort of a cute and silly way, then it's not that huge of a leap to assume that they may be using other people's names in very malicious ways so as to drive newcomers to this topic away from people who are actually talking the truth and drive newcomers towards people instead who are pushing abject nonsense, making statements like, I don't really know if the earth is flat, but I'm a flat earther, which is, I mean, for anyone with a discerning ear knows that this is not how flat earthers talk. And so one of the people in the comments said that, oh, who am I to dictate how flat earthers talk? That's not what I'm saying at all. You're missing the point. The point is, flat earthers can say whatever the heck they want, honestly. But when someone comes along and says, we can't really prove the earth is flat, we need some sort of cockamamie experiment to prove the earth is flat, and I'm not really sure, I'm agnostic about it. I'm sorry, but that person is definitely not a flat earther. And it doesn't matter what they say on other venues. It matters what is their intentions. And these people necessarily, as a rule, give away their intentions in plain sight so that if nobody stands up and protests and dissents against it, then it is by default compliance. It's compliance by complacence or agreement by default. So exercising discernment. Yes, thank you. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take a couple calls and just see if we can have any decent conversation. You can, and I'm on a 30-second delay, so once someone calls in, you may not hear it on your end until 30 seconds later. So if you try to call in and you get my voicemail, that means that someone's probably already got it. But, and I'll put it in the chat. The number is area code 864-327-9373. Again, that's 864-327-9373. And I'm pretty sure somebody will call sooner or later, but I just want to reiterate, I'm not here to drive a wedge in the community at all. I'm not here to, go on a witch hunt against FEPEs. I think that most of the people who follow and subscribe to IPS are well-meaning, decent people, regular flat earthers. That's what I truly, deeply believe. And okay, here comes the first call. So it looks like it's coming from 804 area code. Hi, this is John. Hey, brother. And if you guys in the chat could please let me know if you can hear Art well. I know it's a 30-second delay, but we'll just continue on for now and assume that they can. But what's up, brother? What you got?
I want to say thank you. I appreciate the great work you did on that video. I've watched it 3 times continuously, and you're spot on, brother. There has been something fishy about him more than a penguin smell since he come on the scene, in my opinion. You don't need a meme. You don't need a wrench to be flat. Demanding that from your followers is quite suspect on its own.
Yeah, and I don't want to pick on anybody. That wasn't my intention at all, but I'm very concerned. See, because, and I'm sure you understand this too, that the Flat Earth Truth Awakening is very, very important to me. It's very near and dear to me. And when I see something like this that is so blatantly obvious, which is these really appear to me, and this is my personal opinion, appears to be designs on destroying a public effigy of Flat Earth. And so, you know, yes, from the first time that I started watching that person's videos, I was very not very interested and sort of really quite disturbed, to be honest. But you know, it's not my decision to judge people based on that, and so I pretty much left it alone. But you know, when you see the truth movement being co-opted, uh, it's just terrible. So yeah, thank you for that. Anything else?
I would just reiterate that you seem to be, you nailed it. It fits the narrative of all of the official show and tell counter FE stuff. So, you know, a spade is a spade.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's pretty obvious, and you know, again, whatever happens with this whole rocket launch thing, hopefully, I turn out looking like a complete idiot. That's what I hope. Because see, if I come out looking like a complete idiot, then that means that by us, you know, voicing dissent against this whole chicken shit half-assed operation, excuse my language, but that is what it is, then hopefully enough flat earthers will decide that we are not associated with this, although they still may pull it off in the mainstream. Because I mean, we all know that 90% of the people in the world believe what is told to them on the mainstream, and regardless of if even say 10% of the world knows about flat earth, if the other 90% of the world is introduced to flat earth with such a quite ridiculous stunt that may go very much, you know, like a catastrophic failure, then, you know, hopefully I can prevent that. And so hopefully it will go off without a hitch, and hopefully it will indeed show no curvature. But, you know, again, we've already seen from the 72-mile high go fast rocket that there's no curvature. So I don't see why generate a bunch of hype around something that could potentially be so volatile without even reading a simple four-page PDF about the thing, and anteing up and promoting flat earthers to ante up their money to put a sticker on something that a flat earther was going to launch anyway. I mean, the whole thing is just it's a narrative, and it's not convincing at all. That I mean, it really it doesn't make any logical sense at all.
Yeah, I drop in on his live chats on occasion. I'm not allowed to say anything because the first time I came in, I said, "What's up, flat earther friends?" And you know, it's instant ban no matter what, even if you're one of us. But I heard him the other night talking about he was putting together a list of, you know, his wrenches and whatnot. He's going to pass around to the other flat earth content creators an approved list of people that can comment. I'm like, well, you know, that's on them if they decide to do that. But it's absurd that he thinks he has that kind of pull that he can just start saying who can say what in everyone's channel because he has control over it in his.
Right, right, and what it is, it's what that is it's a control mechanism. But we're not just dealing with, see, this is my whole point. We're not just dealing with a regular person trying to push flat earth truth. We're dealing with something who admits that they used to be a 32nd degree Freemason. And, you know, it's very obvious that that means that they're at least a 33rd degree Freemason then, just by simple logic and reason. And even if that's aside, all that aside, the person claims to be a practicing witch. And so what witches will do, they'll use anything, including hypnotism and well-known mind control tactics, in order to get people to follow them and love them. It's almost like a Munchausen syndrome thing. And so, you know, I'm not surprised that I get attacked by people that use a penguin face as their online avatar. You know,
like one of his catchphrases is, you know, focus on the tip of the beak. Well, what happens if a penguin focuses on the tip of his beak as he goes cross-eyed? This is a way of confusing people. A penguin is white on the front and black on the back. This is presenting to who he's facing a pure side while indeed having dark intentions behind. The penguin has many occultic hidden meanings behind it.
Yeah.
And I caught you said the M on the head with the widow's peak thing. You know, I hadn't thought of that, but that's quite plausible.
Yeah, I mean, Masons, they it's almost as if either it's a rule or they communicate through occult symbolism. And, you know, we know some of the occult meanings of the symbolism, but we don't know all of them. And so we can only speculate. But yeah, anything, I mean, anything that's black and white, especially when it's in a checkerboard pattern, you know, that is almost always or is often attributed to Freemasonic artwork, because that's what's in every single temple. Every single Freemasonic temple has a checkerboard in the front. So, and yeah, that represents duality. It represents, you know, Boaz and Joaquin. Yeah, it's all, and it's almost as if they have to put that sort of stuff in their artwork and in their memes or whatever to announce to one another who they are. But also, you know, there is a lot of subterfuge going on where if you study Mussolini style fascism, or if you study the 48 laws of power, we're dealing with somebody who is a master manipulator and is in collusion with the media. And when they start using other people's names, it really, you know, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I've never used someone else's name once, but if you
I use my real name and real face. Anyone that isn't proud to be a flat earther will hide that.
Right. Well, if somebody uses fake names,
to the world that you are.
if someone uses fake names 3 times that we know of, then I can only imagine that it's a habitual pattern. So I want to try to open it up for a few more calls. Anything else while I still got you on the phone, brother?
Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate it. And please keep doing what you do. We love you.
All right. Love you too, man. Thanks so much. And yeah, I'll hang up now and just sort of keep commenting. The number, if anyone else wants to call in, is 864-327-9373. Put it in the chat box. And oh, hey, Candy, that was oh, I'm sorry, he said his name in the beginning, and I'm just taking calls. If anybody wants to call and talk, I put the number in the chat. It's 864-327-9373. And, you know, just sort of continuing where I was at before, flat earth truth is so important to me, and I know to so many other people. It's not just about me. This truth is like, you know, we've got to get this out. I know people who have ruined relationships with their family. I know people who have had their careers ruined for flat earth truth. Personally, I've had my career ruined because of flat earth truth. And frankly, all of us would, you know, everybody consistently says that they would never trade it for the world. You know, if they had it to do over again, they'd always choose the truth. They'd always choose flat earth. And that's exactly how I feel. And so this truth being so important, when I see it being threatened like this, it really, you know, I'm sorry, but I have to do something, at least state my dissent. So let me take this next call coming from 403 area code. Hi, this is John. Hey, and sorry, I got another call coming in as well, so it'll be a little choppy for the first few seconds. But what part of Canada?
Alberta, Canada.
Ah, okay, great. What's up, man? What you got, brother?
I'd like to know about what your thoughts are on these apps for like iPhone and on like the iPhone and the smartphones for like satellite tracking, stuff like with stars. What are your thoughts when you look up satellites and you got satellites when you're out at night and you can see satellites moving across the sky? I'd like to know your thoughts on that.
I'm not 100% sure I understood the question. So I know you said something about apps. What are they? Apps that track satellites? Is that what you said?
Well, yeah, they show the different constellations. Also show, if you click on satellites, they'll show satellites that are moving across the sky in a very linear fashion. And if you're out at night, in the middle of the night, you can see these lights that are moving across the sky very slowly, and they call them satellites.
Yeah, really interesting. And, you know, it's funny because, first of all, the distance that they claim the satellites are, we'd never see them, right? And what I assume is that there's been stuff like that in the sky for a long, long time, and it's just very convenient that they'll, like, you remember the Sputnik satellite scare back from, I guess, what, the 50s or something, 60s, whatever.
Right on. Yeah.
And so that could have very well been something natural that they knew comes around every so many, maybe it's 60 years, maybe it's 100 years, whatever, but they knew it was coming. Right.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe another call in on it. What they think.
Right. Well, the whole thing is, though, the satellites, because the geostationary satellites they claim are 22,000 miles up, and there's no way you'd ever see something like that ever in a million years. Now, the ones that move, they even claim those are like the ISS is like about 300 miles up, or actually like 250. And I'm sorry, but something would have to be very large in order to render in your eyeball at 250 miles away, or even less than that. And so the whole fact that we can see what they claim to be satellites moving through sky debunks the idea of satellites, because we can't see that far, that we can't see objects that are that small from 200 miles away. And so it must be something else. Yeah, that's a good question. And if you look at really old artwork, I think Da Vinci did artwork where they had things flying around in the sky. I mean, perhaps that's a natural thing that's been going on for a long, long time. And it's sort of like the old what is it, the eclipse god effect, right? Where the Mayans would they knew when the king would know when the eclipse is coming, and so he would make people believe he was a demigod by predicting eclipses. And it's almost that sort of tactic where they know that there's things up in the heavens, up in the sky, flying around, and they'll go and say that they're satellites. But the big checkmate thing on this is, okay, well, if they're satellites, then why can we see them? Because they're too damn far away to be seen, right?
I mean, they is in I guess what modern mainstream media and science tells us, that it's reflection from the sun hitting these so-called satellites, and reflecting back down to us. But anyways, I'm gonna let you go. Thanks so much. You're a really cool guy. Support you all the way, man, and all the best.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. God bless. Love you, brother. All right, bye. Okay, so yeah, good call. Satellites are a big, big, big hoax. Anyone who believes in satellites needs to check their premises, because even if the Earth was a spinning globe, they wouldn't be necessary, because we can achieve the exact same ends that satellites achieve using ground-based, tower-based communication systems, and possibly, geostationary weather balloons, but certainly not satellites. Satellites are just ridiculous, even if you believe in the spinning sphere Earth. Now, once you know the Earth is a stationary plane, then the whole idea of orbit goes pretty much right out the window. And yeah, so many people attribute technologies that have been around for a long time to satellites. For example, satellite, weather Doppler forecasts, right? Well, Doppler forecast is not satellite technology. That's ground-based, tower-based technology. And when you get shots of entire hurricanes way out in the ocean, you're looking at Dopplers that are fixed to the bottom of high-flying airplanes. And that's how you get those images. But it has nothing to do with satellite images. And the way that we know that is because meteorologists who are responsible for predicting tornadoes, they have about a 15 minutes forewarning time. And if you research into this, the meteorologists responsible for predicting tornadoes have been really, really on NASA, trying to get them to give them their satellite data, real-time satellite data, in order to predict tornadoes more efficiently. And NASA won't share that information with them. Wonder why. Hello, you're on with John. What's up?
Hi, John. This is Dave from Eastern Washington.
Hey, Dave. How's it going, buddy?
It's going all right. Just wanted to give you a call. I was, I've been listening to you guys on Glowbusters and your channel. I watched probably every video you had. I've subscribed to you, and I gotta say that I understand some, but it's a little bit frustrating to see this division continue. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, I know. And I'm not here to be divisive at all. Like I said, you guys, if you want to follow whomever, honestly, I don't care. Like anybody can follow whomever they want, and I will love you all just the same. Honestly, I'm not going to play the role of, if you're friends with this person, then I'm not going to be friends with you. But at the same time, if there's obvious malfeasance going on in the flat earth movement, very obvious malfeasance, then I have to point it out. And I know that I'm going to get a lot of flack for it, but I don't want to divide anybody. I encourage anyone to follow and support whomever they want, whether they're in the flat earth movement or not. And the video that I did recently was hard for me to do. It really was, because I am not the type of person to go around bashing other flat earthers. The problem is, I sincerely, in my heart, do not believe that the subject of that video is actually a real, genuine flat earther. And so, I don't want to divide anybody, but I also don't want to see the flat earth truth movement be killed by a stunt, or at least an effigy of flat earth to be killed by a stunt in the public eye. So,
well, and I kind of get what you're saying there, but I all at the same time, I'm kind of like, who had that much? I mean, if you're just advertising it, I mean, look, the world already thinks that all of us flat earthers shouldn't reproduce. We're retarded. Could it get any worse? Right? So getting it out there so people might actually look at it, to me, that's a value.
yes, but see, and I agree, but yes, it could get worse. If we're not careful about this, it could get very much worse. And so that's exactly where I see this stunt going. And again, if what I'm doing here is successful, which is not to divide anybody or pull people away from who they like to follow, my only objective with that video was to change the trajectory of events that transpire between now and the first launch, at least. Because for all we know, that person would have died in that first launch. And guess what? Guess what's in the mainstream narrative as the headline? Retarded flat earthers kill stuntman Mad Mike Hughes. And that's the headline that everybody's going to see. And so, yes, that would make flat earthers look even sillier to the public eye, to a wider spectrum.
I mean, I think that could also, it could work the other way. I mean, it could blow up into the complete opposite storyline. You know what I mean? I mean, that's going to probably be said, but there's always going to be a spin, and as long as it gets spun the right way. I mean, so I guess what I'm saying is, how can one predict the future? To come to that conclusion is just. I understand. I thought that too. In my head, I thought that's possible, but it's also possible it could turn around and be the other way. So I think if we manifest optimism or optimistic, thoughts, that maybe that's the better way to go. I personally, IPS, he's got some issues as far as his stance on, I'm sure he doesn't seem like any sort of a religious person. I would be considered a Jesuit, a Catholic. You know what I mean? People get on me because the Pope's the Antichrist, or I have to hear things from other religions and things like that. But I've got to push that all aside. There's so many different factions and different kinds of people that are flat earthers. Like, we just all need to think optimistically and get the truth out there, because the truth is in the end is only what matters.
I agree. But so let's put it this way, though. Let's just say, hypothetically, you're a shepherd and there is a wolf dressed up like a sheep amongst your flock. Do you just carry on as if he's not there, or do you get rid of that wolf in sheep's clothing?
Well, sometimes there might possibly be a use for that particular wolf for a time period. I mean, if it does help you advance a message, I'm not saying that you should just trust. I guess what I'm kind of am saying is that even if that person is a devil worshiper, let's just say they worship Satan, and they're telling which I don't necessarily think it's possible to tell the truth if you worship Satan, but in the event that they were saying the flat earth truth is what it is. I mean, for all we know, the flat earth coming out could cause a cataclysmic thing that would wipe out I mean, it could become the end of the world as we know it, because then what's going to happen? NASA's going down, universities are going down, there's going to be a huge upheaval. I mean, that could bring on the tribulation in an instant. So do we let the wolf bring on the tribulation? It's all part of God's plan. Like, if it happens that way, that's the way maybe it was meant to happen. I don't know. I guess for me, it's like the truth is the truth, and I don't care how it gets out.
Right. Yeah, the truth is the truth, and I'm with you. But what I'm saying is 90% of the people in the world have no idea about this, and the way that they are initially in, because first impressions are everything, and the way that they're initially introduced to this, then flat Earth is going to be vilified and stigmatized for the duration. It's like, do you remember the Boston bombing? How in the media they blamed it on the brothers. I forget the name of the brothers, and so from that point forward, those, and whether you believe in that narrative or whatever, from that point forward, those people were vilified, and it was a witch hunt against them. And I think they both ended up dying, or one of them got shot in a boat, just laying in a boat, whatever. And so I guess what my point is yes, we do need to wake people up to flat Earth. In terms of tribulation is coming regardless. That's definitely going to happen. We're in Revelation, and next comes tribulation, because once enough people are awake to this fact, then the elites are going to pull the trigger on some plans that they've been building up, through the build.
Deceptions and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, I get that. I guess I'm saying, like, I think that this might be a catalyst flat Earth could potentially be the catalyst that throws it over the edge. That could be what's happening right now.
Yeah, well, and we need it, though. I mean, really, though, think about it. Okay, the Federal Reserve, non-reserve bank has to go. NASA has to go. The IRS has to go. The CIA has to go. The NSA has to go. And all of these government agencies, oh, not to mention LIGO, and you could go on forever. All of these government agencies that are basically sucking up the wealth of this country and the world, they have to go. And in that sense, then yes, I think it will be the end of the world as we know it, but it will be a new beginning. And yes, I think it's going to get much, much more difficult before it gets better. But I do have faith that the creator of all things has way more power than any of these so-called elites who are mere, they're not even gnats on the butt of the creator. Honestly, they're less than that. And so I just feel I'm very optimistic about this. However, at the same time, if we see people who we care about being deceived, and very obviously, then we have to point that out. And that's just my personal opinion, and whether my credibility suffers for it, that's fine. Whether both of these launches go off without a hitch and prove flat Earth to the world, great. Then I'm crazy. But think of what may have happened if I had not done this, because I'm not the only person out here who's been saying, wait a minute, this guy here is definitely acting very strange for a truther, let alone a flat Earth truther. And so, hopefully I can at least make a ripple effect where people will double take on their beliefs, take a double check on who they're following and for what reasons, and really get back to basics about flat Earth, because we don't need publicity stunts to get flat Earth talked about, especially not when it's going to be talked about with negative connotations. So
did you look at the billboard information for the one that was in Oklahoma City, I think, or something like that, where the media had talked to the people that put that up? It wasn't even IPS's idea, but the media talked to those people, and they said something about Satan. We live on Satan's spinning globe, and we're all being deceived. Well, in my mind, when you do that, that's a way to turn the masses off, because I know for myself personally, I've witnessed over the last 2 decades at least, where if you're a Christian or a Catholic, you're shit. You're what you say doesn't matter. You know what I mean? They automatically, that's almost as bad as being a flat earther. Right.
Right. No, I totally get what you're saying, and I agree, because see, flat Earth truth will often bring people to spirituality, or to God, or to faith, but faith or spirituality will never bring people to flat Earth. It puts it in the bucket of pseudoscience. And so, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, if people are putting up billboards and shedding really quite ridiculous, or I'm sorry, but marrying really quite ridiculous dogma along with the idea of flat Earth in the public eye, then you're right. It's absolutely going to make it seem ridiculous. And frankly, not all flat earthers are born again Christians. That's not true. Anyone who looks at this with a discerning eye and really does the soul searching and goes through their personal checklists of why they believed in the globe, it's a very obvious thing, and it's a very liberating thing. And so if the media has designs on capping this off, not letting it get any bigger than it is in terms of the truth that's coming out, and only allow these publicity stunts like, oh, here's a billboard, and the people who said it say we live on a satanic spinning ball, and here's a billboard where the guy that said it uses somebody else's name, and there's all sorts of debate about why that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm sorry, but there's no room for deception in the truth movement. I mean, how does that even make sense?
Well, that's actually a pretty good point. It's just that I think that for me, I kind of felt how, I mean, I was listening to the Globebusters where you came out, and I could tell you weren't even mentioning who you were addressing your opening dialogue with. It was like a 9-minute thing. I could already tell, just because I know you enough, that you were talking, and I'd watched enough IPS, that was directed in a certain way at a certain particular channel. It wasn't hard for me to discern that.
No, well, no, not really like that. It was actually just directed at several different things that I had seen in the last few days where there was just all kinds of drama. I mean, all things that come out about, ODD TV, and there was stuff coming out. There was just a lot of different things. And I see what's going on at the big level, and I'm not able to follow everybody's stuff. It's impossible. But on a macro level, I see that flat earthers are being divided into little camps, and all of these camps are going to be pitted against each other to essentially cancel each other out. And so when you have a self-proclaimed fascist dictator in the flat earth movement, that's a problem. Because yeah, united we stand, divided we fall. But if we're united under a deceiver and someone who has designs on destroying flat earth in the public eye, then I really, me personally, I have a lot of reservations about associating myself with that person.
And I get that, and I know why you would come to that conclusion. I mean, at least I think I know. But I don't know. This is somewhere where I just kind of, I'm just somebody that's been listening for a while. I came to this truth last year about the same time, and haven't done a lot of, work out there to just been trying to sink it all in. But to me, it seems like, I think that from what I can tell, and I might be wrong too, I think that the stance that you're taking maybe is, I mean, it's right for you because for you it feels right, and I get that you're doing that with your heart. I just kind of feel like it is still sort of I think that from what I've heard anyways, and I haven't listened to every minute of his stuff, he's made mistakes. I've seen that. Like, I don't agree with all of his tactics, right? But I think that he seems like the kind of person that would be able to come back and say, look, yeah, that wasn't probably the best thing to do. And maybe we shouldn't use any level of deceit, because that's just you're just kind of playing into the hands of, the nefarious entity or whatever, whatever.
Right, but if it's a habit with somebody, habits are hard to break. And if you look at the J-Trig design on what they do, it fits the MO. It fits perfectly. And you mentioned I have two motives. I had two motives for doing that video. The first was just simply to dissociate myself from that individual. Because I'm sorry, everybody can do whatever they want. I would be very happy if 1 million people go and subscribe to his channel tomorrow. I would be very happy for him. But what I'm saying is that I am disassociating myself from that individual. That's all I'm saying. And the second goal, and you guys can take that for what you will. The second goal was to, again, hopefully change the trajectory of events that are to transpire, because I really do believe that they put their plans, the Illuminati, put their plans in front of us, and if nobody objects, then that is implied consent.
I agree. And so, yeah, do you have to object in that fashion. Not necessarily. I mean, you could object in your own, just saying it out loud, like in a prayer or something. You know what I mean? So there's other ways to object. And I'm not saying, look, hey, man, I can tell you're super smart. I can tell that you're a genuine person, and that's why I would never. I don't think I'll unsubscribe. I'll still follow you, and then at some point, if I decide I didn't want to follow you anymore, I'd unsub. But I don't see that happening because I know that you seem like just a really decent, good person, and I don't think you're doing this for bad reasons. I just kind of wanted to call and chat it up with you actually a little bit. I haven't never been able to talk to you, and all the times I've been listening, I haven't never been able to call. So
well, good. I'm glad that you called, and it is good talking with you, and I appreciate what you're saying, and trust me, this again, this wasn't something that was easy for me to decide to do, because I understand that it's going to cause me problems, but honestly, I don't care, because at the end of the day, yes, I have to vocalize dissent, but if I do it quietly, then there are other people who are going to be deceived that haven't seen this. And even if I can get just one single person, even if it's just one, from being deceived, then I feel good about that. And if I can change even one minor detail of the trajectory of events that are going to transpire after this point, even if it makes me look crazy and paranoid, then it's a win for me. And it's a win for Flat Earth, really. So thank you for calling so much, man.
All right. Have a good one.
Okay, brother. Bye. Okay, so yeah, some good points. And again, I want to reiterate, I'm not trying to destroy anyone's reputation. I'm not trying to get anyone to say, if I'm not going to be your friend anymore. But at the same time, I call a spade a spade. If it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, and it walks like a duck, then it's probably a Brazilian aardvark, right? So Morgile said brother twice. Mason much. Well, I call everyone brother in a sense that we are all sons and daughters of God. Can anyone remember a time when the biggest shill in the world ever called ever called a flat earther brother? I'm probably going to hear crickets, because it's not that I sit around watching these people's shows or anything. I really don't. The only reason that this particular video that I dissected came across my lap is because someone sent it to me and asked me to look at it. And I really give them all the credit, because I frankly never would have seen this if it hadn't been for them. And they know who they are. They've asked to be left out of this because they know what a drama storm is going to come after this. But frankly, I just don't care. I've always been about this for the truth. That's it. And I've welcomed and I've plugged and I've helped to promote so many other flat earthers, and other flat earthers have done the same for me. That's how we should do. And if I felt good about what IPS was doing, I would promote him and I would contribute. But I'm sorry, just take a 10,000-foot look at this, folks, and consider the conversation that you were all privy to if you watched the entire 3-hour and 40-minute video. And if it isn't obvious to you that we're dealing with somebody that is not a flat earther and does not have flat earth truth in their heart, or the best intentions of flat earth truth in their heart, then that's a problem, especially when they're manipulating things in the mainstream narrative. It's like Shaq coming out and saying the earth is flat, and then coming back and saying that he was just kidding. It makes it seem as if it's a joke. And so lots of flat earthers jumped right on board. Oh, Shaq's a flat earther. My first response was, and I think I said it live, well, isn't he a Freemason? Can we really trust him? And let me bring up this point too. We can't vilify all Freemasons. That's absurd. Most Freemasons are normal, hardworking people who have no clue whatsoever what the actual upper echelons of the lodge and the Grand Master Masons are doing. They have to pay a monthly or annual due to go there, but they get beneficial treatment when contracts come up. There's a lot of builders and such, but you also have accepted Masons. So they're not builders, but they have, pull in other ways. And so it's, it's an altogether deceptive organization. But the people who are at the low levels of masonry are the most deceived. And if you research the writings of people like Albert Pike and Mackey, it's very clear that the Freemasons at the lower degrees of the lodges are 100% deceived about the virtues of Freemasonry. And when they become higher and higher than master, higher than the third level, they learn that these virtues are merely a facade, and more or less they worship Jabulon or Lucifer or whatever you want to call it. But it's a secret society for a reason. Although they think everyone else is very stupid, they think they're much better than everyone else. And so they do indeed talk about that sort of thing, and they talk about their plans in public forums where anyone can hear it, because frankly, 9 out of 10 people won't even understand what they're saying, and they won't pay attention. And the 1 out of 10 people who does pay attention, um, what are they going to do? Are they going to tell all 9 of the other people to one? No. So that's all I'm trying to do, is maybe tell a few people, look, guys, I'm pretty sure that this whole situation over here with this self-proclaimed Mussolini-style fascist flat earth person is inimical to the truth movement. That's up for you guys to discern on your own. I brought forth evidence that was just in one video. I've got tons more that I could bring out, but I'm just going to leave it at this for now, because hopefully this is enough to change the trajectory of the events and to get people thinking about, what are they doing with their time in terms of flat Earth. I got a couple of comments from people on the video. Well, this person has put up billboards, and this person is actually getting flat Earth out of the echo chamber. Right. And that's great. Of course they are, because they're putting it in the mainstream media so that they can destroy an effigy of flat Earth. This is coming from Omaha 402. Hey, what's up? This is John.
Hey, John. How you doing?
Good.
I was just calling in to wonder, did you ever figure out the precession of the equinox debacle?
Did I ever figure out the precession of the equinox debacle? And what is that?
Continue to say that it was supposed to move a half a degree every 18 years because you did the math incorrectly?
What do you know? The precession of the equinox is a 26,000 year cycle, right?
Uh-huh.
Divide that by 360 degrees.
Yes.
Okay, so what do you get? It's 1 degree every 72 years. By the way, folks, this is Tim. This is Timio, the J-Trig Globe Earth shill, right?
I'm not a shill, but I hear I am a shill from you for some reason. I'm a real person.
A real person. Okay. Well, I really don't have much time to talk to you. Do you have any points you'd like to raise other than trying to say something about the fact that the North Pole Star should be out of line with the axis about 1 degree every 72 years, according to precession of the equinoxes?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me go ahead and explain that really quickly. The circle that it does, that 26,000-year cycle, isn't 360 degrees in our sky. So it's doing a 360-degree circle around those constellations. Now, that is not that big of a degree in our sky. So what you've done is misconceptualized it. And I have a video that calls you out about it, and so does, I guess, Warp and Red. But we don't be able to correct things ever, do we?
There's no correction needed. That if the precession of the equinoxes takes 26,000 years, and that is caused by an alleged wobble of the Earth's axis, then that axis is necessarily going to describe a circle, and it's going to go through 1 degree of that circle in 72 years. So anything that you try to do to obfuscate this is just ridiculous. The globe Earth model.
It's not 360 degrees in our sky.
It doesn't have. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't.
What's the angular diameter of the circle that it's doing of those constellations in our sky?
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be a 360-degree thing in our sky. What we're talking about is the Earth allegedly spinning on an axis, being focused upon Polaris. So do a little experiment. Focus say it's a scope with a crosshairs on it. Focus that scope on a target that's a mile away and begin spinning around with the target of those crosshairs as the axis. If you move that axis even an or a 10th or a 20th of a degree, the target is no longer going to be in the center of that axis. And so the whole idea of the axis of the Earth remaining fixed with Polaris right above it for all of history disproves the heliocentric model, because we would have a new North Star every 50 or maybe 100 years at the most. Never changes. Globe Earth is dead. You don't have a model. The Earth is flat, no curvature. No matter what you say or do is going to change this.
Celestial pole star, have you figured out that it doesn't move like a conga line? It actually does move like the North Celestial Pole. Have you figured that out after 2 years?
Have you figured out that it's just an operation of refraction? Have you figured that out after 2 years of research?
Can you justify that comment, that assertion in any way possible, Morgile?
Oh, goodness.
Because the globe model has not one debunk on it at all. I'm still looking.
You can say that. You can say that, but it
doesn't have any predictive capability, so it's nothing. It's nada. It's zilch. It's a pipe dream.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're sticking up for your lodge brother, or is he your master? Is he's your master, or you're just your brother?
Well, Helios is the only true visible god.
No. I'm talking. I'm talking about your J Trig friend that pretends to be a flat earther.
I don't know who you're talking about. Oh, IPS. Yeah, he's a questionable character, and trust me, I'm yes. My conspiratorial ears go very high up with that character, trust me.
So you're saying that he is your master?
No, I actually calling him a character, and we have a kind of a cute little relationship back and forth.
I bet you guys do. I bet you guys do have a very cute little relationship.
Bro, it's super duper. All right?
I bet it is. I bet it is.
I'm a conspiracy theorist like you. Okay, I've listened to you before, and I probably agree on a lot of things, but you know what? As far as the shape of the Earth, I think that it's objectively true, that it is a sphere. You don't, but you know what? We probably have a bunch of things.
What experiments have you done? But you said you think it's a sphere, but what experiments have you done physically to prove that?
Well, I have a justified belief that it is a sphere. So I've actually been, I've lived most of my life in the Northern Hemisphere, and I have been to the Southern Hemisphere just this year, actually. And it is not the same stars, and it's not refraction. There's a complete different star set, mostly as you go.
Of course there is. Of course there is.
I've tested these things. I've corroborated that latitude actually does work with the star system, and I've actually tried to map that on any kind of flat Earth pipe dream, and it just doesn't work. At the end of the day, the sphere model will continue to have 99 to 100% predictive capability, whereas the flat Earth will have 0.
That is asinine. It's totally asinine, but okay. Thanks for calling, Tim. Take it easy, brother.
Thanks, man. You too.
Wow. So it's a little funny that old Timio is calling in and trying to change the subject away from his alleged J Trig buddy, who they have a cute relationship. Isn't that telling? Wow. Is Morgile talking to Allison? I know she's what? I don't know why somebody would say that. I'm just reading the comments here. How long have we been on now, guys? Let's see. It's hard to say. I don't even know. Anyway, seems like I've been on a while, but just wanted to have a hangout tonight to, talk to you guys about this, see if anybody has any questions. I know I've missed a ton in chat. Yeah, Chris Truthseeker, can men be cute? Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of weird. I could understand him saying that they have a interesting relationship, but a cute relationship, I don't know. I've got a cute relationship with my dog. She's a little shitsakakapoo. I have a relationship with my wife that's, I wouldn't say cute. So I guess men can have cute relationships, but two men having a mutually cute relationship, that is a little odd. Good point. I'm not a shill. I'm a human being. Tim Austin. Yes, good call. Jay's on 90. The only problem with the talk show format is that complete turds like Tim can call and bore the hell out of everyone. Yeah, well, I like to give him a chance to speak, but he's trying to play semantics in the argument regarding precession of the equinoxes, when in fact the axis of the Earth being central to any point would be way more noticeable than the equatorial stars on the vernal equinox, right? The alignment to Polaris, if the Earth was a spinning sphere, would be out of whack 1 degree every 72 years within that alleged circuit that it makes. So, yeah, it's a big fat globe-tarded mess, right? So, only has one argument. Yeah. What about the southern star trails? I've made videos on that. We're getting to the bottom of it. It's refraction. It definitely appears to be refraction because you get that same effect if you're looking at stars that are nowhere near the equator, let alone south of the equator. So what happens is the stars that are further south of you, like say you're in a northerly position looking up at Polaris, the stars that are further south of you are going to apparently drop towards the horizon, and that light is necessarily traveling through more atmosphere as the atmosphere is thicker towards the ground. And so you get sort of a doming effect or a convex lensing effect, and that it causes the apparent counter-rotation of stars. And you can pour a glass of, you can take an empty glass and pour water into it, and something that's sitting behind that glass will appear to invert. And so what we see in the sky has nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. And that's why I really love it when these globe Earth trolls try to confuse the conversation by bringing up heavenly bodies, right? We don't need to look at heavenly bodies to prove that the Earth doesn't have curvature, nor is it spinning. Look at the picture that it was from July 2016. I've shared it a couple times. It was in that last video. It's from 273 miles away, and there's no curvature. And so, you know, to say that we need to start having explanations for the southern stars is absurd. First of all, the globe Earth model does not work. It's not predictable. The only reason that it's predictable is because people have been studying astronomical events for thousands of years, and so they've found perfect patterns in things. And to say that that makes the globe Earth the only thing that's predictable is ridiculous. What makes everything predictable is the cycles. And frankly, if we lived in a heliocentric, chaotic, infinite universe theory, there would be no perfect repeating cycles for all of history. There would be no consistent North Polar star that never moves. And again, even handing them the central Polaris to the axis for argument's sake, that alignment would be completely out of whack within 50 years or 100 years, because that alignment would have moved 1 degree away from Polaris in terms of the arc angle of the wobble. So it doesn't have to be 360 degrees in space. All it has to do is it has to do with the alignment of an object that's allegedly 2.5 quadrillion miles away, being perfectly aligned with our alleged axis and not moving. Even 10 years of precession of the equinoxes should throw that alignment off. And yet Polaris has been exactly where it is, central to the other stars for our entire lives and my grandfather's life. He'd have told me if there was a new North Star, and so would his father have. So I know that at least in the last 150 years, Polaris has been right where it's at. And so, you know, for anyone to say that the Earth's axis is wobbling and we're going to have a new North Star in 20,000 years, it's ridiculous. They're not doing the math on it. So anyway, I think you guys understand. It looks like so far a lot of people seem to understand where I'm coming from. And, you know, this is not an ad hominem. You know, perhaps if certain people change their ways, then, you know, we can all be friends. That's what I want us all to do, honestly. Like all flat earthers, I'd love it if we were all just friends. I mean, you guys know there's a lot of big names in flat earth that are just absolutely not very welcoming. And that's one thing that I've always tried to be, is open and forthcoming and loving and patient with new coming flat earthers. And it can be difficult at times, but you know, that is a vulnerability. Evil people see that lovingness and trustingness as a vulnerability. And so we have to be wary. We have to understand that they're going to try to use our weaknesses against us. And of course, our weaknesses in terms of the flat earth movement is that we are very loving and trusting people by nature. So I just beg of all you guys, just don't be deceived. And I'm not talking about any person or character in particular. I'm just asking you guys to use your discernment and listen to people watch their actions, and if their actions don't match up with what they preach, then dig in a little bit deeper, because you know I don't know. I just care about this movement, this truth movement, so much. I really do. I've dedicated my life to it, and it really makes me very angry when I see people being misled, and I see a false flag media event being planned in the name of flat earthers. So with that, I hope and pray that both of these events go off without a hitch. I hope and pray that both of these events prove flat Earth a little bit more than. I mean, I don't see how you can prove flat Earth any further. I just don't. I don't necessarily see that being the designs of these people. And hopefully, I will look crazy in 6 months. Hopefully, that's the case, and that means that what I've done here has worked. So I just want to sort of end this with little bit of a, I wouldn't say a prayer, but there's an article here. It's BeliefNet. Jesus' weapon against deception. How do I battle the lying tongue of my enemy? The devil is called the father of lies, and he deserves the title. Here's how Jesus dealt with this threat, and this writer here can model his strategy. Quote, be quiet, Mark 1:25. Where is the devil attacking you? Your enemy talks. What will you do? Sorry, I'm shutting down the phones now, guys. Sorry. I gotta eat dinner soon. But his imps poison the air with white lies. Loser, they say. Look, they're laughing at you, says another. She always gets her way, says another. Go ahead, no one's looking. Why not? You deserve it. Or this will never work for you. Make him live to regret that. These are the sort of things that we hear from the evil people in this world. And today will be a very noisy day indeed, inside of our heads and out. But what else do you expect in a war of words or in a spiritual war? You have to say something. Jesus faced noisy days. In chapter 1 of Mark's Gospel, a demon with no tongue of his own used a broken man to blaspheme. The demon said, "What do you want with us? Have you come to destroy us?" It squealed. Jesus showed no tolerance. Be quiet, he said. Come out. The demon gagged, winced, and fled. Jesus turned and gave the man a new life. Be quiet was enough. Just 2 words fired this shot heard round the universe. Jesus faced down his foes directly, simply, and violently. Let there be quiet. Your enemy is talking. What will you do? Talk back? Today you face noise. Your enemy intends to dismantle the world this way. Let there not be, he says. But you will not remain silent. You will not show mercy. You will not borrow Jesus' words and name and shut down the nonsense. Answer envy, be quiet. Answer suspicion, be quiet. Answer distrust and fear of self-pity, fear and self-pity and lust and anger and gluttony and pride. Be quiet inside your own and on behalf of others. Put these 2 words to work, then rest easy. Your mission is to listen carefully for the slightest deception. Listen for the inaudible, invisible source of the lies. When you identify your target, take aim. Then, from under your breath, let fly the borrowed words from Jesus. Be quiet. Then rest as the racket dies away. So with that, thank you guys all for hanging out and watching. I really love and appreciate all you guys. God bless you all. Spread the word, spread the world, and peace. Check, check. What's up, everybody? John TheMorgile here for a live stream Flat Earth Talk hangout with the community. Check, check. Everybody, what's up, everybody? John TheMorgile here. So I know there's definitely Flat Earth Talk hangout with the community. There we go. So I know it's definitely coming through on the live stream side. Sorry about that little delay there, but yeah, wanted to make sure that it's live, and we've got just a few people watching now. So I started a little bit early, give people a chance to pile in. So Welcome everybody. I'm just gonna say hello in the chat, make sure the chat's working. I kept getting a thing where it said unable to connect to chat, so hopefully you guys see me in the chat. I don't see anyone else in the chat as of yet, but I guess there's just 30-second delay. So hello everybody, welcome, and I'll just sort of shoot the breeze a little bit as everyone piles in, because I know sometimes it takes a few minutes for everyone to get in. And of course, this will go up on the archive. So in case you are watching later, then you get to hear me rambling. So anyway, so far 34 people live. So we'll just give it another couple minutes. Hopefully like to get a few more people started. So I don't really want to have to repeat myself too much, but what I really want to do is sort of interact with the community, and I'm not seeming to see any comments yet in the unique. There's not too many Jonathan Christopouloses out there in America, at least. It's a fairly common name in Greece, but in terms of America, unless I have any nephews that I'm not aware of named Jonathan Christopoulos, then I'm the only one. Right. I do have a big family, but there's not lots and lots of instances of Christopouloses running around the United States. And so that was my biggest reservation of ever putting my real name on my YouTube channel, just for the sake of anonymity. It's a smart thing to do. And when I did that debate, I did it for the sake of anonymity because, again, flat Earth was not my life focus at that point. However, again, just being honest, I released my identity, and very shortly thereafter, all of my business client relationships were within 2 weeks completely, I guess you could say, sniped. And up to this point, I sort of thought, yes, this is me being paranoid. I understand. But when you read those JTRIG documents and they classify somebody or business as not even a national security threat, not even suspected of or guilty of any crimes, but just this very broad spectrum of activists or hacktivists or online activity, where the federal government has basically given themselves carte blanche authority to go in and ruin the reputations of people who are involved in the truth awakening movement. And that's exactly what that spells out. And this isn't news. I mean, that the whole JTRIG documents, at least the article that I read and the video that I just did, if you haven't seen it, I'll put a link in the, actually my rent's fine, and I've got multiple sources of income that have nothing to do with YouTube. I do work for a living, so yeah, not sure why the Masonic penguin trolls, not saying that that person is Masonic, but that emblem has a big M in the forehead, and Freemasons tend to, whenever they create a logo or a meme, they tend to, hide things in plain sight like M's. But so, yeah, not surprised that you're going to start attacking my character and using ad hominem attacks. So, yeah, I'm sure that wasn't IPS, I know, but there's lots of people, lots of flat earthers who use the exact same avatar. And I'm not saying that anything negative applies to all of those people at all. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is just my very limited dealings with people who use that Fepe meme or whatever as their avatar are typically they typically don't act like a regular everyday flat earther. And I'm not saying that, again, that's a stereotype, and stereotypes never apply to everybody. But again, I'm not surprised to see that sort of thing. So research guy says penguin equals Masonic black and white duality reference, not rocket surgery. Yeah, indeed. And it's not even so much reading into, yeah, you can say that about a lot of the artwork. And when you start looking into JTRIG, though, and I think this is a really big topic that a lot of people comments area on this one, so I'm not sure what's up with that. Let me refresh that page and just see. There we go. Now I can see comments in the chat. Great. So yeah, this is something that I wanted to do just to talk to everybody out there and say hello and let you guys decide the topic of conversation. So this is sort of a impromptu hangout. I did recently release a video that is obviously a bit controversial, so I'm sure that there will be a lot of questions regarding that. And at some point, if it becomes too cumbersome trying to go through the chat, then I will take phone calls. Where am I, Nikki Loves? I am in South Kakalaka, South Carolina, east side of the United States. Don't spam IPS. I would say not. I mean, you guys can do whatever you want, but I don't necessarily condone spamming anybody. I mean, that's just me, though. I mean, to each his own. Sup B Adam. IPS post was old news. Well, the thing is, and I'm not sure exactly the context. What do you mean, OJ McBaggins, about that being old news, the post? Yeah, so there's a nice little penguin with ad hominem attacks. Wow, that is very, very much of a big surprise. People don't take seriously. There have been people like John LeBon saying that flat earthers need to prove that there are paid globe earth trolls. But if you read the GCHQ documents about JTrig that were, I believe they were found not through Freedom of Information Request Act, but through WikiLeaks, if I'm not mistaken. But whatever the case, these JTrig documents were released showing that they do exactly that. They pay people to cause fallacious or misguided online discourse. And it's literally a vast psychological operation that spans everything from YouTube to chat rooms to blog posts. And what I found very interesting, researching the JTrig manipulation tactics, was the fact that they indeed target businesses as well as individuals. And so for the longest time, when I came out as a vocal proponent for Flat Earth, and I had a fairly my home-based business was doing very well up to that point, and it continued to do well up to that point until I did the Art Bell show, which at that point I was sort of forced to, I intended to remain anonymous up to that point. However, I was forced to release my identity because everyone was saying, oh, this guy doesn't even have a real name. He's an Illuminati shill because he won't give his real name. And frankly, I gave my real name. And one of the biggest reasons that I always had reservations about releasing my full name is because my name ain't exactly John Smith. My name is very